Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast. This episode is going to be with Michael Stonebreaker from the BowTique and Pope from Arrows Anonymous. So if you know who those guys are, you know this episode is going to be about custom arrows, but we're going to dive into some stuff that's maybe a little bit behind the scenes and where we think the I guess custom arrow industry is going to go. So definitely stick around for it. It's going to be a great episode. Before we get started with those guys, obviously got to do the partners, but I'm going to run through this kind of quick. Working Class Bow Hunter, go to their website, workingclassbowhunter.com. Check out all of the merch that they've got and use the code listed below. Or if you're just listening to this, use the code that's listed in the description to save 15% off. Next up is going to be Osseo Gear. Osseo Gear is awesome. It's my camo brand of choice. I think you guys should definitely give them a shot. Also, we have a code for you down in the description that also saves you 15%. Summit tree stands. Still have my sticks that I need to put together. Haven't done that yet. I've been super busy and dealing with I guess working overtime, trying to get things ready, for this new bow that's coming, and also just spend some more time with the family. But Summit Stands is my tree stand of choice. They've got hang-ons, climbers, sticks, safety harnesses, all that stuff. So go to summitstands.com, use the code once again listed below, and all these codes are going to be available in the description or down below this video if you're watching. So definitely go check those out. Let's see, the BowTique. So obviously this episode is going to be with Mike from the BowTique. So really not going to need any sort of introduction there. Awesome arrow wraps, awesome arrow builds. Y'all are going to learn all about it in this episode. So definitely go to the BowTiqueLLC.com and check out everything that he offers. Bergie Bowsmith. Just did Bergie's podcast last week. It was extremely informative. Really good time. So if you want to check out his podcast, I think it's Better Bow Hunters with Bergie Bowsmith, something like that. Just type in Bergie Bowsmith and you'll find it. G5 Outdoors. I'm going to be using the Mega Meat, the Dead Meat, and the T2 this summer for pigs, and probably the Mega Meat or the Dead Meat for deer this coming fall. Probably actually going to use the Mega Meat for some turkeys if I get the chance to go out and hunt. But I have a very busy schedule this year, so we'll see. But G5 Outdoors is my broadheaded choice. I made the switch this past season, and I have been absolutely loving it. Prime Archery, still waiting to order that form. That's going to be my new bow for 2025. And as far as I can tell, that's probably the bow I'm going to shoot at least till the end of this season, depending on what Prime comes out with. But best bow I've ever shot. If you guys haven't shot it yet, definitely go to your local shop and shoot the new Prime form. If you are also interested in not a hybrid bow, they have the RVX Plus 32 and 34. So go to primearchery.com and go custom build your bow. You can see all the things that they have to offer in that. Dialed Archery. I've got my proof ready to go. Just need to get the bow so I can sight it in. And dude, is the best sight that I have. I know I said this about the Arxos, but this is the Arxos, but improved. I mean, the proof is amazing. So go to Dialed Archery, order yours today. You can custom build it. They have small batch stuff. I think they just sold out of the Mossy Oak Bottomland for the proof, so you're gonna have to wait on that. But Dialed is an amazing company with amazing product, amazing people behind it, and I really think you guys should give them a shot. I know I don't regret it. I don't think you will either. Ace Social Circle, Ace Hardware and Social Circle, man. Just actually was up there the other day. Got to see Mr. Jay Maxwell, Mr. Chase Coltharp, my buddy David Alligood, who has been on this podcast before. Got to hang out with Tim Knight for a little bit. It's a really good time. Had no idea that Tim Knight has shot over 100 turkeys with his bow, so that was really cool. But Ace takes care of you, man. They've got everything you need, from bow brands to broadheads to arrows, and they will build your arrows for you if you want to go up there and don't feel like getting the full custom job done. But they also will tune your bow for you. I mean, they literally cover every single base. So check them out. Scoutek is my preferred camera that I like to use. Been partnered with them for a little over a year now, and they've been working great. So go to scoutek.com, look at all they have to offer. Camo Dust, once again, Camo Dust is the scent control company that I use. It's the only thing that seems to work for me. I don't know if I just stink. I don't know if the deer by me are more sensitive to it, but Camo Dust helps me stay concealed from those deer, and I really think you guys should try them out. So go to camodust.com and order you the 6-pack for this fall. You will see extremely different results, I promise you. Bohning Archery. So Bohning is a new partner. Going to be running their veins this year. Waiting on I think it's the Bohning Alpha is the vein that I'm going to be running. Have a little bit of something in the works with Mike from the BowTique. We'll see how that works out as far as getting a promo build with the Bohning veins. But Bohning's awesome. Been around for 80 years. So go to bohningarchery.com and look at all the stuff that they've got from the Blazer, the X vein, and the new Alpha and Atlas. And last but not least is my buddy Brock's YouTube channel, The Chase. He actually just dropped a video of his first archery buck in 9 years. So it took him 9 years to get his first archery buck. Awesome video. The editing is second to none. It's one of those videos that you really like get involved in, and at the end of it, you get to see how much 9 years of trying really comes to a head, and you get to see Brock get emotional. You get to see him get happy, excited, all that stuff, man. It's a great video. So it's not the only video they have. They do turkey hunting videos. Brock is going to come on in a couple weeks and give us a rundown on turkeys. So that'll be my first turkey episode I've ever done. Figure why not get him on there. He had a 100% success rate last year in his turkey guiding out in Michigan. So go to YouTube, type in The Chase, go watch everything they have. Make sure to subscribe. That's all the partners, guys. So before we get into this episode, you guys know last week's episode, I had a little bit of surprise for you at the end. That prayer from Ben was awesome. I got chills from it. I hope that every one of you that listened to it, it stirred something inside you to get to know Jesus Christ. That the things that I have been seeing lately, I've made a very, very heavy jump into it, heavier than I thought I would ever do. And the thing I can just tell you is that it's what he does for you is amazing. This world is so full of just darkness and really, really, honestly, just really bad stuff, man. And Jesus is the light. He is the way, the truth, and the life. And trusting in him, having faith in him, there's nothing you could do that'd be better for your life. So, if you want to open your heart to it, if you're interested, grab a Bible, get the Bible app, start at Matthew is my suggestion, and then run through the New Testament, or just at least the Gospels, so Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and then start from the beginning. Go to Genesis and see what God has to say to you is really what I'm getting at. So yeah, that's my preacher moment. I know the boys are waiting on me. So let's get into it with Mike and Kaylin, both from BowTique and Arizona. Well, today we got some heavy hitters on this podcast. We got Mr. Michael Stonebreaker, still the coolest last name I've probably ever heard, from the BowTique, and Mr. Camo Pope from Arrows Anonymous. If you don't know who they are, go on Instagram, go find them, go on Facebook. These two guys make some of, if not the best custom arrows that I've seen just out there on social media, everything. The designs and everything I've seen and the builds, it's awesome. You guys have a gift. I'm going to be honest. Y'all both do. So I'm excited to get you guys on here. Before we get into the nitty gritty and figure out what is, I guess, behind the scenes of all this new wave of custom arrows, what's been going on with y'all?
Hope you want to start?
Yeah, I've just been working, but trying to get ready for turkey season. I'm waiting on a gun to get finished built, so I'm cutting it close. I'm gonna be hunting in like 20 days, and my gunsmith likes to run like super last minute. But I know that's how he is, so it's okay. And I think we're starting to look at moving. We went and looked at some new houses. We're looking at remodeling a house that I've inherited. There's a lot going on right now. A lot.
That is a lot. What about you, Mike? What's been going on, man?
Oh, dude. Things don't really stop anymore. This printer, I mean, aside from right now, because of the podcast, I had to shut it down, but it doesn't stop, dude. We've been, since last time, dude, things have gotten even busier. We're working with some pretty big names in the archery world right now, and it's exciting. It's exciting. We just hit 1 year old on February 7th. So,
God, dude.
Yeah.
It always blows my mind when you tell me that, because I love to talk. And I know you know this, because when I call you, it's usually like supposed to be just a 5-minute thing, a little quick catch up, and then an hour later we're talking politics, or we're talking Jesus or something, and I'm just like, how did we even get here? Right? Yeah. And 1 year, dude. I mean, you kind of alluded to it. You guys have been working with some big brands. I mean, For the people who don't know, what's the newest thing on that?
So Lone Wolf officially came out with their wraps this last weekend in Iowa. From what I'm understanding, they're show exclusive as of right now. So the only way you can go get them is by going to a show that they're at. I'm not gonna, because they haven't officially came out with it yet. But the dudes on your hat also have wraps too. Working Class is going to have some BowTique wraps. Theirs turned out awesome. Lone Wolf's is awesome. We did Osseo's, did Dark Owl Archeries. Who else is?
I'm trying to think.
Yeah, we got a lot up our sleeves. So
Yeah, you've kind of kept me in the loop on a lot of that stuff.
Corbin's an extreme.
Corbin's extreme.
Oh yeah, that's right. Forgot about
I actually got some of Corbin's right here.
Oh boy, sneak peek.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. Pope's seen some of them. Yeah, dude, it's moving into these big shops. It's wild, man. Like there's like 4 mega shops, and I'll be in 2 of them hopefully. So
yeah, I've been trying, dude, for a while to get my local shop to reach out to you.
Yeah,
they're so stubborn. Like they had a deal with another company that it's not my business, so I'm not going to say it, but they were supposed to have them in the shop like a month ago. Mm-hmm. And I was up there two days ago and asked about it. And they're like, oh yeah, we just, we reached out and we never heard anything back. I'm like, well, call them. Like, I can give you the dude's number right now. And they're like, oh, well, I don't know. And I'm like, all right, look, if you don't want to make money, that's fine. But you're missing a whole market out here.
I'm pretty responsive, dude. I will say that. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm just saying I'm pretty responsive. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, wraps it's a weird thing, man. People are all about them or not at all. There's no in between.
Well, from a bow shop standpoint, if that's something they haven't normally offered, it's opening a whole new door for them. And that may be a door they don't want to open for themselves because they just don't know what they're getting into. So different owners are gonna react different too.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that this shop, they still have the same wraps from 5 years ago, the first time I walked in there. So I don't know if it's exactly the same packaging, but to be honest, man, I see mostly just like honeycomb. Whenever they're building something, I walk in there, it's usually pink or orange or maybe white honeycomb. And I'm just like, y'all could have something so much better than that.
And that might be something you sit down and explain to them. Like, look, we can get some logoed wraps with designs that you stock. It doesn't necessarily have to, because they may be thinking you're thinking, oh, well, we're going to have to deal with doing everything custom, and you just might have to explain it a little better.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I mean, I'll probably pop in there next week, so maybe I'll talk to the archery manager about it. And I mean, honestly, I could just hit him up on Facebook, really, but I don't know. I just want to see like growth for y'all, even though you don't seem to be having a problem with that at all.
I appreciate it. Yeah, dude. It's like I said, it's not, there's a lot of shops that, this might be bold, but a lot of shops don't really care. A lot of shops just want like that in and out traffic, grab and go, consumer.
Correct.
Those are the bow shops that are like, eyeballing arrow rests and, not shooting through paper, not tuning, not, instructing. Not every shop. There's a lot of really good shops out there, but unfortunately, there's a lot of really bad shops out there. There's probably more bad shops than there are good, 10 to 1. So
correct.
Yeah, I mean, all right. So I'm just gonna ask you guys y'all's opinion on this because, Mike, I know you and I have talked about it a few times, but like, what do you guys think with what y'all are doing, and just sort of kind of how things are going direct to consumer these days? What do y'all think the future of bow shops is? Because I mean, a lot of these companies, really, like I'll use Bear as an example. You can go on Amazon right now, order almost every single bow that they offer, and you don't even have to go to a shop.
So I was thinking about this the other day, and I think that it was something that the archery industry has tried really hard to fight. I think that they understand that it's inevitable, and I think the biggest key indicator is when Matthews put the tuning system in their limbs this year. I think that was probably the nail in the coffin to where everything's headed. Do I think that there's still value in bow shops? Absolutely. It all depends on how the ownership chooses to view it, because obviously you're still going to have to purchase bows. That's a big thing. And not only that, some of these tuning systems, even though they're on the bow, when you're playing with deflections and cam lean, even the initial setup, it wouldn't be bad to get somebody to walk you through what's going on with the bow so you don't just crank on it and blow it up.
Yeah. Completely derail that thing. Yeah, that's, man, I don't know. It's just weird to think that we could see a time in our lives where bow shops aren't like the go-to thing anymore, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it really just depends on how bow shops want to evolve. I mean, this industry has evolved, and it's continuing to evolve. And I think too, like you see it, earlier when I was mentioning, mega shops, the one thing that mega shops have in common is they sell online. A lot of mom
Correct.
and pop shops, they refuse to. I mean, and it's fine. It could be a generational thing, or you don't have enough staff. Because I mean, like if you're selling online, you're selling to the world, not just in one town. So
Yeah.
like, you do have to be on it, especially if you're selling a good amount.
And two, that ties into, like, for these shops, that when you can get some younger blood in there, especially if you have some guys that are participating in like the target scene, and you can get some content out there which makes people want to support you, and that's when they're like, oh, I need to buy this, and instead of typing in, whatever brand Excel, they type in your bow shop and order it from you. All of that stuff kind of links together.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think too that like there's, like how Pope was saying, there's always going to be something that people are going to need. Like
Yeah.
bow shops aren't going to close overnight. Do I think that the industry is moving towards direct to consumer across the board? Absolutely. But it's not going to happen in the next decade. Like it's going to happen. Like how many, I mean, there's a lot of people out there still shooting, solo cam bows and solid limb bows, and every single one of those are going to need a press. And not
Well,
not all
even,
bows have that easy tuning capability that a lot of the technology we're seeing now come out with.
even to the point of, all right, and I see it a lot with tree stands. I'm associated with Lone Wolf, and you have a lot of people that are like, hey man, can I stop by and look at that? People aren't going to just jump out and order, $1,000, potentially $2,000 product without putting it in their hands first.
Yeah.
And so I think it's exactly like Stoney's saying. It is all dependent on how bow shops receive what's coming, how receptive they are to the change, because there's an adaptation there that they can be very fruitful in. But if they're negative, like you can't shoot a bow on the internet. Well, people love to dot shoot, open dot lanes. There's always expansion there.
Yeah, there's definitely something they can do. And I mean, I still feel like bow shops are completely necessary. I've got two examples. One was 3 or 4 years ago, the local shop I go to had a guy there that just was lazy, just didn't do anything, and it stopped me from going there for a while. But the last straw for me was I went in to go get a peep sight put in. He didn't even tie it in. Yeah. And I'm looking at it like, dude, I'm going to shoot this thing and the peep's just going to go. And if God knows where it's going to go. I don't know how to tie it in. I tried, but I'm not a, bow tech. And so that showed me the importance of it. And then very recently that helped me decide what bow I was going to get this year. I went up to my local shop and shot the new Prime Form and shot multiple other bows with it. And that helped me decide, okay, do I really want to pursue like a partnership with them? Do I really want to shoot that bow? And I never would have been able to do that if we didn't have that, because I'm not going to order a $1,500 bow without knowing what it's going to, feel like. Yeah, I don't know. It worries me a little bit, but at the same time, y'all are right. Like they're going to have to stick around, because you're going to have 15-year-old bows that still need a press, that don't have the tuning technology. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm not getting a ratchet strap and, compressing the limbs just to do something to my bow.
I think that's how Pope does it still, actually.
Do what?
That's how Pope does his, I'm pretty sure.
And if someone, like, seriously, if he does it, that's perfectly fine. I ain't doing it. I don't trust myself.
Well, even to the point of it's just like you were talking about tying in a peep. what you don't know is that your peep could have potentially turned at an odd angle, crushed, cut your string, and blown your bow up
See,
by
there you
not
go.
being tied in. So it's little things like that. Even when people have trouble, like, "Hey man, I can't get 100 yards out of my bow. I don't know what's going on," and you're like, "Well, somebody set your peep too low. Your face fit up isn't right." There's a lot in archery that'll never be solved by the internet, because what happens when you get on a forum and ask a question?
Everyone knows the answer.
Everybody
Yeah.
answers.
Dude, archery talk blows my phone up every day, and I'm just like, okay. Just look at my watch, like, all right, cool, swipe it. It's insane, man. But so, all right, I want to know y'all's story. So, Mike, you've been on the podcast before. My memory's terrible. How did you get into like this whole arrow wrap business?
Dude, so I think you kind of hit on it earlier. Like you go into all these shops and it's just the same thing on repeat. And like Pope knows the story, but funny enough, I mean the BowTique started from a cigarette arrow wrap. Like it was just a silly idea. We were shooting 3D and there was a guy with a cigarette in his mouth and he went to full draw and he was shooting 3D smoking. And I was like, man, it'd be funny if like the arrow wrap had a cigarette on it, because at full draw, once you hit your anchor, it looks like you're smoking a cigarette.
Mhm.
And thus the BowTique was born off of cigarettes. So
It's
but
like everything in Stoney's life.
dude, 100%. So it's dude, of course it's evolved. I mean, and that turned into a multitude of other things, of course, but not everyone wants topo, not everyone wants honeycomb. Some people like really scary shit, or just like really cartoony stuff, or colorful stuff and wild stuff. Not everyone is into OD green and dead deer skulls. Like there's a lot of people that shoot bows, whether that be hunting or target, that they want to make something truly yours, and there's not many options out there that allow you to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like before I met you and really sort of started doing this, that I would get arrow wraps and I would spend hours looking for places that I could, get custom wraps. And then the problem is I don't know the size, like I'm still where I was relatively new to it. So I'm like, dude, well, what size? The OD is like 0.386. It doesn't say that in the arrow. So then I have to look it up. I feel like what you've done with arrow wraps is made it easier for people to just be like, oh, that looks really sick. I want to get that and put it on my arrow so I stand out, because tax season's coming up, right? And that's kind of what I feel like, not only for the hunting side of things, but just people going to tack. They want a cool looking arrow.
Yeah.
And then
very
they
important.
get a broken heart when they lose it. But
look, dude, as much as a horrible relation this is, it's just like girls getting excited to wear, sundresses in the summer. Like whether men want to admit it or not, they're getting ready for the season to change too.
yeah. So what about you, Pope? How'd you get into this?
Well, so initially, I wanted to do this for myself. So I really, what it was I had a bow and I had messed up on a couple of deer and I knew something wasn't right. So I dove into that rabbit hole and kind of started figuring it out for myself. And then kind of the arrow thing, I started digging into it and messing around with stuff for myself. And then my buddy was like, dude, I'm not going to stand in a bow shop for like 6 hours on a Saturday. Like just hook me up. And I was like, all right, dude, whatever. Well, so I'm doing it for me and my buddies, and then their buddies start hitting me up. And I was like, I don't know, man, just like tip me or something. We'll figure it out. Well, it gets to a point where it's like, you guys are taking up my hunting time. Like you're gonna have to pay me. And I remember I built a set of arrows. They were white and purple Louis Vuitton wraps with two purple AAE hunters and a white one. And I don't know where that arrow picture went. I don't know if it hit a forum somewhere, but I do remember very distinctly it was like I was getting two messages a week like, hey, will you build me arrows? Hey, will you build me arrows? So it wasn't that I was necessarily trying to make this happen, but I enjoyed doing it and it made it easy for that to happen.
That's crazy. So, I mean, you've got your own arrows now though, right?
Yes, I do.
So give us a little bit of info on that. Like what sets those apart from say like a Victory or an Easton, or I guess why would, if someone's looking to get arrows, right, and they just want to get something that's not the same as everybody else, what about your arrows sort of stands out?
So when this was also kind of like a not necessity either. Me and Stoney we have communicated for a long time, and we were both kind of moving different ways, and I was trying some stuff out, and I had a guy present a product to me, and I told him, I was like, I'm not really ready. Like, it's not something I'm looking to do right now because we were in the middle of building season.
Mhm.
Well, we kept on, we tried it out, had to shift around a little bit. And what it made me do, it forced me to produce my own arrow kind of on the spot. So when I went into it, and everything I do is based around whitetail. I've built builds that have been to uh, Argentina, other places, Africa, but everything that I relate to is related to whitetail hunting. So when I wanted to introduce an arrow, that's the route that I went. And what I looked at doing was I knew I wanted carbon weave, I knew I wanted light, I knew I wanted 5 millimeter, and I knew I wanted a strong front end. So, like with your victories, what I don't love is the half out. I think it gives it's not bad, but your fulcrum point to where when you take an impact, where the arrow is going to bend at, because there's not much inside of the arrow, it
Mhm.
potentially gives that arrow a spot to mushroom. So, I wanted more full coverage on the front, but I don't want to build heavy arrows. So,
Yeah.
what I come to the conclusion of was putting an aluminum hit in the front with an aluminum footer, just 30 grains total, and you end up with an arrow that's about 430 grains, that's carbon weave, that's super duper tough, that you could shoot an elk with, potentially a moose with if you wanted to. They're great looking. The logoing is simple. I left them all white so that if somebody wants something to match their setup, like, you're not dealing with contrasting colors and this and that. And I bounced a lot of that off Stony. But what I was ultimately looking to do is set up the one stop whitetail arrow. Like, this is it. This is the arrow.
Hmm. Well, it seems to be working based off the bucks that are behind you.
Yeah.
So,
that,
I wanted
you
to
should
touch on those, man. Those are some sick deer back there. That
you
I
should
keep.
see some of the lone wolf guys that have killed with these arrows.
Oh,
Like,
dude, look. I've followed the DeQuistos a long time. I know what those guys can do. So that's all right. This is totally unrelated. We'll get back on topic, but I just thought of this. I have ADD, so y'all got to bear with me here. Uh, I was listening to Andre and Cody on the Hunter podcast a few months back, and Andre said something that I've kind of been going back and forth. Like, I get it, but I think it's maybe a little excessive, but someone in his position, he could probably say it. He was saying that if I remember right, doesn't get excited anymore when he sees a 180 because he's after a 200 typical, like a world record typical.
look, you got to understand that man's built different, and this is what I have to say about Andre. You can go look up the video of him shooting the Missouri state record, and
Mm-hmm.
what he does, he looks at the camera. He was self-filming, and he goes, "I got him, psych, I killed him." Like, I don't freak out like that. Like, Andre's
Yeah.
just got a different mentality. It's very business exchange. Like, even with animals, like, I'm here to make no mistakes. I'm here to make one shot. I'm here to make one kill. And it's not that he doesn't love it. So a lot of people get it misconstrued that you can't do something as long as he has with the longevity that he has and not love it.
Yeah.
His view of it is different than yours.
Hmm. I'm glad you explained it that way. Because I mean, I don't fault him for it at all. It's
Right.
just, I'm like, dude, if I had a 180 showing up in front of me every year, I'm shooting it. Maybe
Yeah.
after I shot like 15, I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna let him walk, see what he turns into. But I
Yeah,
just,
you should see his and Cody's walls, and you'd be okay. I
dude,
get it.
I remember when Joe Miles came on the podcast the first time and he was in his trophy room and it's just like 80 giant whitetails behind him. And I'm like, Joe, I can't even talk to you right now because I'm just looking at all these deer, dude. And he started cracking up. I'm like, seriously though, you might need to move for the next one because I can't focus here. It's too
Right.
many. Those guys are just, dude, they're just built different. They're like you said, they're a whole different breed of hunter. I feel like.
Well, and two, this is something that so I've watched. Dave Owens right now is hot because turkey season's coming in, and a very continuing thing that people say to Dave, and he's turning into a joke, is that it must be nice. But what people don't understand about those guys is that they made life choices and life sacrifices at some point to base their life around these things.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you right now, I'm not willing to do it.
I'm not either.
I don't want to hunt 24/7. And like even with Dave, like I'm not sleeping out of my car 4 months a year to chase turkeys. I love turkey hunting, and a lot of guys are like, dude, I would love to do. No, you wouldn't. You would
Yeah.
not love that,
It
dude.
sounds nice. Yeah, I've heard Cam Haynes talk about that before. And hell, he even had some veins that even said must be nice on there. And he's talked about it so many times. People say that, but they have no idea what goes into it. Like the
Right.
sacrifices. And I'm sure that relates to what you guys do too. Because every time I call Mike, it's always, what are you doing, man? I'm just over here putting wraps together, shipping stuff out. I'm like, damn, dude. I'm like, you were doing that yesterday. He's like, yeah, man, I'm doing this all, late into the night. I'm sure you're doing the same thing, Pope. So like people don't understand what it really takes to get to that point where people can look at you and be like, oh, it must be nice. It's so I'm glad that you touched on that. I'm really glad you touched on that because I don't think I've talked about that on here.
Adversely too, like this last season was the first time I've had to sacrifice that aspect of it. Like,
The hunting side?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, because dude, like, I would say,
So
I mean,
busy.
the very few times I went out, like, I either had my laptop with me or I was on my phone, like responding to emails, or I was designing stuff. Dude, like, I shot a doe early in October, and it was 15 minutes before last light. Literally folded my laptop and then looked up, and there were like 4 or 5 does out in front of me. And then so I just grabbed my bow and pulled it back and shot one. So it was that. I mean, it's wild because again, I'm sitting here printing, and then I'll get a text late October, early November, and it's like local dudes or people I've built for. And I'll get on Instagram and someone's just tagging me in a picture with a bloody arrow. And dude, I mean, like, I love that. I do love that. Hopefully one day I get to the place where I can actually go hunt and enjoy it again. But a lot of people don't realize that, like, your love for this sport or your love for this industry. Like, I love it so much that I'm willing to give it up, which is wild.
Yeah, that hurts to hear almost.
Yeah, it
I,
does.
I wanna I wanna see you kill a giant. And you
Me
can't do
too,
that if
dude.
you're
Me too, dude.
printing stuff.
No one wants to see that more than me, dude.
I'm right there with you, man. So I mean, how many hours a day are you working? Like how you wake up at
Yes.
what time?
Dude, like, so we'll we'll wake up, we'll get the kids ready, we'll take them to school. And then from the second they're there, until they get home, I have gotten better about, like, when the kids get home from school, I'll stop. I'm dad, and then right when they go to bed, back to work. And it's like that. It'll be like that till 1, 2 a.m. every night. Every
And
night.
and that's another thing too, like that people don't understand, and like I know that this is hard for Mike is like working from home and your business being based around home, being able to turn it off and set it aside to be dad. A
Yeah.
lot of people couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I struggle with it.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
I haven't gotten to that point yet, but there's been days where I'm off. Like we had snow down here, right? And you know how Georgia is, that it snows, the whole state goes into lockdown, even if it's a quarter inch. And I was home for 2 days, man, and it drove me crazy.
mm,
And it's like I wake up at 4:30 every day. I don't want to go to work, but then I'm like, well, if I stay home, I'm gonna get stir crazy. What else am I gonna do? You
mm.
know? So I can see how if you're working from home, you just kind of constantly do it because it's there,
Double-edged
you
sword.
know?
It's a double-edged sword, dude. And like, it's one of those things too. I mean, like, where I have a partition space in my house, like where it's like the home business office, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's like, if like, especially with doing all these big dealer orders, like, um, I'll be halfway through them, and then my oldest son will be like, let's go throw a baseball. I mean, dude, like, I'm never gonna say no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is hard, but then it just, you only get so many of those in your life. So I'll hit pause on the printer, and then of course I have to make it up later in the night. But dude, I'll do that every time. Like, it's just it's a lot. A lot of people don't quite understand. Like,
Yeah.
my wife also works from home too, but she's the head, the DCS liaison over the state. So whenever she's in meetings, it's not like she can say, hold on one second. You know what I mean? She's
Yeah.
meeting with like representatives of the state, and lawyers and whatever the case may be. So we do a really good job of juggling. You have to, I think. So
You get to a point where if you're not doing something's like you're like, I don't feel out of place. I need to go do
Yeah.
something.
That's when you go shoot your bow and just
yeah.
kind of push that down. I mean, dude, I'm so happy that we ended up talking about this because, you know, a lot of people, like I was saying earlier, just think that it's you wake up, you make wraps, you send them out, and life's all good. And it's like, no, there's way more to it, you know. And same thing with building arrows. Everyone's probably like, oh yeah, you're just, you know, putting components in and fletching up, and there's so much more time that, I mean, I feel it too, you know, like doing the podcast and stuff, having to edit things and plan things around like my daughter's softball games. It, granted, I'm not doing nearly as much, you know, at home work, I guess, that you guys are. It takes like 2-3 hours to edit an episode. We do this for an hour, 2 hours, and then that's pretty much it, you know. But I can understand, you know, maybe the struggle sometimes that it's like your kid wants to go throw a ball around, and you know, you've got to push that stuff back. I mean, do you guys ever get people saying, "Hey, you know, where's my order at?" Or is it kind of
Yeah, like so um this has been the craziest part. So um I want to say Pope might know. Like, so I want to say it was at the end of February. Like, I had to make a PSA. Like, I'm 2 weeks out on individual orders, and I'm 3.5 to 4 weeks out on custom designs. And to say that in February is absolutely bonkers. And so, you know, because like typically January, February, very cold months for like what me and Pope do. And you know, a lot of people don't really care about bow hunting or or whitetail. You know, there is the target crowd, but a lot of those dudes typically are building their own arrows. You know, they're doing their own work, but you know, once, dude, it's like I would almost say it's like the first day that is somewhat nice. That's when we start getting messages. Tag gets on people's mind, you know, and it's especially now, like I'm very humble. But man, like I know like the comic pop arrow wraps that we came out with a few months back, dude, I feel like that's the only thing that comes out of my printer right now until like because dude, they were heavily emphasized to be built for tack arrows. Like it's bright, colorful, look at me. And you know, Pope's built a lot. He's got some on his personal arrows, and so it's that's been a hard thing. And then doing individual orders while juggling dealer orders back to back to back, and then it's just been a lot. Pope deals with it more during hunting season.
Yeah, so Stony gets on me a lot because I typically shut down during hunting season. Like I hunt, and
Yeah.
I'm hard to get a hold of. Like especially turkey season. There's been years where I didn't see my wife for 28 days. Like, you know, like I'm gone. You're not gonna find me.
How are
So
you still married? Holy
it's been a
crap,
long
dude.
road. So I actually still work 40 hours, and I drive an hour and a half away from my home. So I do everything at night almost. So what ends up happening, and let me gather my train of thought here. Uh dang, I just blanked out. I don't even remember where I was going. But
Hunting
you
season,
know,
shutting down.
oh yeah, I shut down. So Stony usually is like, bro, like, you know, you could gain so much more if you just, you know, do this. I open a website and I'm like, bro, I'm gonna get flooded. And then when it comes hunting season, I'm gonna be like, I gotta refund all this money because I'm going to hunt. So
Man's got his
it's
priorities straight.
but this year, like what Stony was getting at, I didn't really shut down almost because like it'll start weaning itself off naturally once people kind of get to hunting, but it didn't really happen. And then like me and Stony kept asking each other, was like, it's January. Why am I getting 10 orders this week?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on, dude? And like,
Bro.
so I've also like started adapting. Like, I'm in Alabama, so our season's a little weird. Like, we rut like December. So it's like to the point now of like, I've started weeding out the times of the year that I know I'm not going to kill a big deer and like only focusing on when I am so that I can run bows the rest of the time. And I'm trying to do better so Stoney don't yell at me. But sometimes I just gotta go hunt.
So
No, Yeah, for sure. And there's this weird thing. It doesn't matter. I do it every year. I know Pope does too. It's like, yo, look, if we're doing this, let's do it now. Like, let's not wait. Like, it's dude, even like I wouldn't say a lot of local people. A lot of people are better now locally because they know I get real upset about it. But like, for one, you owe it to the animal. Like, you shouldn't be getting brand new string September 20th. Like, you should have been doing this in the summertime. I'm not, you should have been getting your arrows built, in the summertime, not in the middle of season. So like for me, it's more than just like, an inconvenience on me. It's like, dude, you don't respect this at all. And so that gets a little frustrating, but at the same time, I get it. Life's busy. Other people have jobs and things outside of the hunting industry. It's just, but at the same time, you've had literally all year.
And too, like how I've kind of started looking at it, especially with some of the younger guys, is they maybe somebody who's never really hunted before, and their buddies are hunting, and then they're like, man, I want to hunt, and that season's already going, and then they're looking for somebody, and everybody's kind of pushing them off. I used to kind of only do emergency stuff, but I've gotten to where I'll take you in, just work with me.
Yeah. I mean, I did that once. My first year doing the podcast, hunting season came along, and I think I did 3 episodes that entire season. And it was like, I took a step back. It was like, am I really going to be able to find the time to go? Because I was already going away from the family, and at the time I was traveling for work too. So it was like multiple different things. And I mean, thankfully everything worked out. Now it's easy to do it. We got a schedule, but yeah. I mean, shutting down for season, man, it kind of makes sense. But if it's like for Mike, if that's the only thing you're doing, you kind of can't,
Correct.
Which is different. It's different now because like last year I was working on bows. This year I can't. Like, there's no way in good faith.
Could hire Bergie.
Well, yeah, of course. Or Pope. Pope does a really good job.
There you go.
I would argue so if I'm having any issue on my personal end, like I'm good, but like I'm not like the best. I'm never gonna say I'm the best, but if I have issues, Pope's the first person I call. And so he still does bows. He's going to continue to do bows from what I understand, but for me, I just can't. Like, I can't do bows and do the print and build arrows. I can't do it all.
Yeah, it's not enough hours in the day. So I want to touch on something though, Pope. So you said you're in Alabama.
Correct.
Are those deer behind you Alabama deer?
Public, yes.
Public, bro. Are you not going to have to talk? Because I'm only one state away.
Right.
I've seen some giants come out of there, man.
I was born in Georgia.
What part?
Do you know where McRae Helena is? About 30 miles south of Macon.
I know the area.
Yeah, it's like way down. That's where I was born at.
Okay. We got us another Georgia boy in here. I like it. Yeah, man. I remember a time I went to Eufaula once on a trip. It was like spring break or summertime, or actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, it might be when I proposed to Jessica, which I'm glad she doesn't listen to this because I'd get in a lot of trouble probably. But anyway, me and my father-in-law were traveling together, and we stopped at this gas station in Eufaula. And dude, I'm just, grabbing drinks, whatever. And I turn around and there's this well over 200-inch rack that's on the wall. And I'm like, ain't no way. So I asked the lady at the desk, I was like, hey, where'd that deer come from? She was like, oh, that was killed down the road. There's public land out there or whatever. And I'm like, that came from here? Because I didn't know. I mean, I've always been told southern states have small deer. And I'm like, no, that sucker's got, he had to be 230. And
yeah.
I mean, it's crazy that, and I know this isn't really arrow related, but it's crazy. Like, we have those deer too. I mean, the bucks behind, like that one buck behind you too, I guess on the screen, it's to my left, your right.
This one.
Other one.
This one.
Yes. That's what's he score?
He is 127 3/4 is what he is.
Dude, he looks way bigger than that.
Yeah, he's really framing. The deer beside him is 149 6/8.
Jesus.
But it's getting more and more common. I think that the southern states are kind of catching up.
Yeah.
But, different conversation, different time.
Yeah. We're gonna have to do a whole episode just on that. So I was on Bergie's podcast last week, And the whole episode was talking about arrows. And I'm glad we did that because it was kind of like I guess a warm up for this. What is y'all's preferred arrow weight? Because that's something we talked about for like 30 minutes. And he had an interesting take on it, but I want to hear y'all's opinions on it.
Me personally, so I don't get caught up into I don't build to a specific weight. I build to a specific speed range. So and we're also talking whitetail at this point. So I build my bow to be in that 280, 290 range. That's where I like to be at. I run a single pin, so I'll set my pin at 25. I'm inch high at 20, inch low at 30. I can just center mass. I'm also hunting like cornfields, very small wood plots here in Indiana. It's like 99% of where I'm at is agriculture. So my arrow setup's going to be a little bit different than say someone who's hunting like hill country, like thick, nasty, heavy cover kind of stuff. I would say you'd want a little bit more punch. That's just a personal opinion, but does that mean heavy? No, it just means not flying flat out to 40.
Yeah.
But for tack, dude, for tack, I'm pushing the limits, dude. I'm going as light as possible. So, but yeah, you're trying to. I mean, Pennsylvania. I mean, dude, it's not uncommon in Pennsylvania. Last year there was a shot at 146 yards. Yeah, so you got to be able to clear that. Yeah, so. So I build light for tack, and then I just build to a specific speed for hunting. Just because for me, it seems like broadheads tune, fly, every aspect. They're more forgiving in that range.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If I were to say, I build 420, 430, grains. To me, that could be light because of my draw length, but the Pope, that could be extremely heavy because he's got 23 inch, 24 inch draw.
What the fuck up?
So I mean, it's subjective. For me, I'd rather aim for that range, for speed. So
for me, I guess I'd have to broaden the spectrum a little bit. I want to give people the ability to experiment on their own. So a lot of times I'll ask them hey, what are you hunting? Are you looking for advice, or do you want built to what do you prefer? But as far as whitetail, I'm almost exactly where Stoney is. I mean, I'm looking for that 280, 290. But two, I also know guys who shoot, you know, in the 300s that kill big deer every year. Now, when you're talking about going out of the country, if you're dealing with outfitters, they're going to give you a minimum weight to hit in some of these countries. So there's not a do it all. As much as we'd like to say that there is, a Cape Buffalo's rib is probably as thick as a deer's shoulder. So there's differences there, and you can argue over the formulas, and speed also goes into kinetic energy. Kinetic energy dictates everything, but there's a this is an ongoing argument between everybody that I don't think we'll ever get a very definitive answer for. Yeah. So, what I prefer for people is I want you to shoot what you're confident in. What I'm confident in as far as whitetail goes, 430, 450, 280, 290. You can shoot an expandable if you want. You can shoot a fix if you want. Just, have fun with it. I just, I've grown to where, if that's you, I know guys that are in the 600s right now, they'll put my wall to shame. And they kill big deer every year, and that's what they want me to build them, so I'm going to build it.
Yeah. I mean, me and T-Bone talked about this a year ago, and because I did this whole arrow journey, I guess, and I had so many different perspectives. I had Troy Fowler on, then Tim Gillingham came on. Then I think
that's a contrast in itself, right there, dude, boy.
If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. It's hilarious.
Yeah,
it was nothing but just talking crap the entire time. But going from those two extremes, really. And then that last episode I did was with T-Bone, and I basically said to him, was what do you recommend for the average guy? And he and I both agreed 450 to 500 would be the average setup. And I mean, you can, go plus or minus 20 grains, whatever. And that's what I've seen. I mean, my setup last year was what was it? 445. And so like the 440 to 460 range is kind of what I like, especially here in Georgia. I haven't shot over 25 yards. Now, do I plan to eventually make farther shots? Yes. But that's not, here it's 40. I feel like 45 is about the longest you're going to get. And that's a Pope for Georgia. So it's one of those deals. I've got buddies that shoot 397 and they're 29-inch draw at 70 pounds. And there's other guys that are shooting, a mid-weight arrow and they're over 300 foot a second. It's like you can't really find a middle ground with that.
Well, and one thing I'll touch on, and this is, I don't have proof of this yet, but this argument always comes back to trad bows. Well, one thing for everybody to remember, a traditional bow doesn't have let off. And what let off essentially is, and you can feel it once you change your let off from 75, 80 to 90, it's a gap that the bow is creating before that cam really starts creating energy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the heavier your arrow is, the harder that gap is to close. And so when you don't have let off in a trad bow, they almost, and I'm pretty sure I have data that shows that they get more efficient with that weight. They're able to deal with it a lot better than a compound is. So you'll notice that a compound will really start making a deep exchange for feet per second for mass. Beyond, I think, like 470, you really like it almost goes up just a notch to where it starts costing a little more because it's harder for that bow to get started and get going. Mm-hmm. Now, it just depends on the person whether that exchange is worth it for you, but it's something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I just changed from 85 to 80%, and the difference I felt in that small little change was night and day.
Right.
I mean, just complete night and day. And I just did 85 all season because I'm like, well, dude, I want to be able to hold back as long as I can. And then I started thinking about it, and I may or may not have listened to Josh Bomar talk about this, but it's like, dude, 80% to me, 75% and 80% is like, I would say, optimum levels to be at for that. It's all opinion based, really, to a point. But I noticed a big difference. I noticed I can stay steadier on the target, and I'm not kind of just hanging out, and just moving around. I'm not torquing as bad anymore. See, I mean, I don't know. I didn't know about that whole arrow weight thing with the let off, though. Like that kind of gap that you were talking about. That's new to me.
Well, I mean, like bows, like on paper, when they're being designed, I mean, it really keeps going back to like AMO measurements and everything else. Bows are measured or optimally supposed to be shot in that 80% range. Like, if you think about it, target archers typically are shooting 65, 70% let off, and it's purely based off performance. There's there's less flex in the string, your shots break cleaner. It's more optimal across the board. However, I think I'm not a trad archer, and I don't know if I even have really the grounds to like say one thing from the other. I know that like whenever I look at a trad build, I don't get a lot of them, but I do get them. And like it's very similar in my opinion with like say if I were to build a turkey decap head, like you can't tune that, but you're creating this arrow and you have to force it to where you want it to go because you're trying to steer something with a helicopter on the front of it.
Yeah.
So ultimately what that means is you're lowering your bow's poundage, you're making a very stiff, very heavy arrow, and you're just making it go where your pin's at. It's that simple. But with trad, I think like adversely, there is a parameter like as far as in depending on like how you shoot too. Like there's some people who shoot with a gap or with creep or whatever the case may be. Pure instinctive guys, I feel like typically are the ones that are shooting those heavier setups, like the guys that are off the shelf, the throwing a baseball mentality. So again, I don't know. I think again, with light arrow, heavy arrow stuff, like there comes a point where diminished returns really happen. Like, every bow's different. Like you can have a light arrow and a heavy arrow, but you can also have one of too much, and that's where your diminish happens. That's why me and Pope both advocate that 280, 290, because you're getting as heavy as you can for penetration, and you're getting as light as you can for speed. before things either start getting really weird with arrow flight or things get real slow. So, I mean, again, it's purely based off confidence. I'm not going to say one thing's right or wrong. I know that, like, if someone comes to me and says, I want a 700 grain arrow because that's what I feel personally I need to kill a deer, dude, I'll build it. I mean, we'll do it together, whatever. But, like, it's not my place to say, well, you're an idiot, like I'm not going to do that. But I think with tuning bows, with building arrows, a lot of people will come to us, because that's what gives them confidence. And I'm not going to take that away from someone based off of what they feel like they need.
Yeah. So, I mean, would you tell somebody that, because I mean, my bow was shooting 275, 280 this year, but with the new bow I'm getting, it's probably not going to be that fast. So would you suggest for someone, if that's like obviously it's not gospel, it's not, the end all be all, but if that's the number that maybe people are going to be chasing, would you recommend they lighten their setup?
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
And this is just as simple as I can make it. All right, we know that deer are very reactionary animals. If you're hunting whitetail, but they're probably one of the fastest reactionary animals.
Especially done by us.
do you feel like that the 30 extra grains or the 15 extra feet per second could make a difference between a kill or a loss? Which one would work out more?
Honestly, I mean, I want to say that though that small of a change probably wouldn't make a difference either way.
All
But
right,
if I had to pick one, I'd say the speed would probably make a difference.
Correct. And two, one you can train for and one you can't. You can always really push to make very optimal shots and choose your shot placement and practice for that. You can't do anything to make your speed better in the moment.
So what do you say to like the guys that, run lighter setups and they're like, oh, my arrow, because I know Michael Waddell, had this happen to him, bounced off the deer. And people are like, oh, dude, it's too light. It's
bad tune.
And that's kind of what I was thinking is like, I literally know guys that shoot 380 grain arrows and they're zipping through deer with a mechanical.
Dude, Native Americans had no problem with almost annihilating the whole population of buffalo with rocks and sticks. So I think like there's literally, I mean, dude, even still, like we're sitting in like a lot of times tree stands covered in like, thousands of dollars worth of camo with rangefinders with bows that shoot 350 feet per second. People are still missing deer at 20 yards, dude. It's wild. But like,
well, look, I told you that in confidence. Okay.
And this goes back to a text chain that happened the other night where me and another arrow builder were having a conversation. And what I stressed to him was that, the deer is more important than the gear. Learn how to kill the deer, and the gear doesn't really matter nearly as much.
Yeah.
Because when that deer, if you learn how to cut deer off at 15 feet or 15 yards, a lot less goes wrong than if you have an encounter at 40 yards. Sure. And that's where it all goes back to. If people would focus more on the animal they're hunting than worrying about the things they could spend money on, it would work out better for them. Now, I love to spend money like anybody else. Stoney will tell you, I just went and bought a boat really for no reason, but that's the truth of the matter.
Yeah. I mean, do y'all think it's maybe a pride thing?
As far
as like wanting to, so all right, I'm just gonna be extremely open and honest about this. I went to TAC last year. It was my first time. I'd heard jokes and stories about like the TAC bro. And I never knew what it was until I went to TAC and saw a sea of Matthews, Hoyt. And there's nothing wrong with that, good bows and stuff, but it's Matthews, Hoyt, some PSEs. And then I'm over here with my orange cam obsession that I used to have. Just, totally not fitting in, right? Which, whatever, fine. But I wonder if it's like, that's a thing people do where it's like, all right, Matthews comes out with the new Lift X29. Everyone buys it. They go to TAC and like, dude, check out my new Lift X29. Next year they come out with like the Lift XX29, and it's the same thing. They got the new sights, they got the new arrows, and all this other stuff. Do you guys think that maybe that's sort of what's creeping in? Is everyone just wanting the new thing to try and be cool?
Yeah. So
and they're not focusing on what's really important?
Dude, so me and Dave Thomas from Bowhunter Planet, he called me earlier and we were literally talking about this exact subject. And you know, I think ever since COVID, the archery and it could be other industries out there, but I'm like I this is the industry I know. Every year prices of things are going up. Every year. Like right now, Hoyt's aluminum bow, Hoyt's aluminum MSRP's at 14.5. Aluminum. That's insane. And like, mind you, 3, 4 years ago, most bows were sitting at 11, like MSRP. Now I will say most shops are selling at MAP, maybe a little under, but still, the simple fact is, dude, $1,400 for an aluminum bow, that's wild. But if people are continuing to buy that, then why would they go down?
True.
So like,
And two, from a sales standpoint, and this is what the consumer needs to understand, and this is where I want to help people. If you're willing to finance it, it's not that company's problem. It's your problem. So quit creating problems for yourself.
yeah. And
Got a
two,
point there.
I think what happens a lot is people try to find like people think that, well, I suck at archery, so if I buy this brand new bow, I'm going to be better, and that's not ever going to be the case. Or like people are like, I have bad target panic, so if I buy this new hinge release, I'm cured. That's not the case.
Yeah.
Or this new sight or whatever the case may be. People try to find this band-aid for a deeper problem, and typically the result is spend more money. And however, if you suggest, hey, instead of maybe dropping $800 on this new site, maybe just go find a really good coach and maybe, spend a few months working with that coach and, developing good form and yada, yada, yada. And then but people don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
And again, it is tack is, and I'm going to catch heat for this, but dude, tack is very flexy, man. Like it's a bunch of mullet pit viper fucking squatted truck flat build fucking hat. It's wild, dude. But and it's great. I'm not saying anything bad. Anything that's gonna get people to shoot their bow, dude, I'm all for it, 100%. But there is definitely a type. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, well, and I didn't want to sound like I was talking crap about it. It's just it was shocking, because dude, everyone looked the same. And it's like, dude, what is going on? And this is in Georgia. Like I'm expecting, lifted trucks, Georgia Bulldogs hat, just the old Hoyt the grandpappy had. And no, dude, it's like, the lifts and all these new, but which is great, like we were saying, but you're right. I mean, people buy them, they're gonna keep doing it.
So what you got to look at too is that hunting is particularly popular with the generation below us right now, as well as a few other things, pit vipers and lifted trucks. And so what I try to remember is, it's a wave. And a lot of those guys, like they're trying to do is like a lot of those guys are still going to the bars every weekend. They might hunt a little bit. When duck season rolls in, they're going to be decked out in Sitka and be on a boat. And I watch it all the time, like with guys around me, and I'm like, dude, if you'd have cracked down, you probably would have shot a big buck. But you wanted to duck hunt and dove hunt and deer hunt and turkey hunt too. So it's great for those kids to be outdoors. And I think that there will be several of them that stay with it. There will be several of them that won't. But it's a very social aspect for them. Whereas for us, it's more of a like, I enjoy doing this and I'm going to do that. That's just age. That's age.
So what you're saying is I'm getting old because I'm gonna be 30 in 2 years.
Yeah,
I'm getting old now. Am I old and crotchety? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay,
I get it too.
I'll accept it.
Like it's literally golf. Like that, I think that's the thing that people don't quite understand. Like whether it be like an actual like event where scores are kept or whatever the case, or if it's tack or mountain art, whatever. Like, dude, it's golf. It's golf, just different. And so I think I think the biggest thing is like that I've noticed archery used to be like baseball cards. Like, it's a 7-year industry, then it dies. Like no one shoots a bow, no one talks about archery, it stops evolving. And then out of the blue, it just starts coming back. People start shooting a bow again, and people are wanting to go outside and hunt and shoot their bow. Whereas I think the implementation of tack and social media, I think has people have identified like, hey, I can do other things with my bow other than just go shoot deer or turkey.
Yeah.
I can go hang out with my buddies. I can, like me and Pope are going to Tennessee. So like, it's we're just doing it because it's gonna be a fun time. You know what I mean? It's not a flex thing or anything like that. It's just it's another way for you to go be able to hang out with friends and shoot a bow.
So y'all are going to be at
And
the Tennessee Tech?
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, I'm trying my best to come up there that Saturday night and come shoot Sunday. So if I
Yeah, dude.
do, I'm gonna let y'all know.
Let me know,
And
dude. It's a ghetto venue. I know that, dude. Like, dude, it's sketch. It's a sketchy place. So
really, see Georgia, dude. I'll tell you what, man. Tack. So I've got plans to go to Colorado in 3 years on either an elk or a mule deer hunt. I got humbled so bad last year at Tack, just in Georgia, which our mountains are hills compared to out west, right? And dude, I was like, we went on the easiest course. I think it was a Jack Link's course. I lost almost every arrow. My sight tape was not on right. I fell over a creek, slammed my bow into the bank of a hill in mud. So that it was a great time. I had so much fun. But I realized I was like, dude, this is a whole different thing.
Well,
And
too, in your backyard, and a lot of people don't realize their first tack. You cannot train for side healing and odd angles that forces you to level up against opposite pressure in your backyard. So when you get there, you're like, oh, this is different.
oh yeah, I
and
got
it's not
humbled
even just
so
that.
fast.
It's the pressure. It's the pressure too. Like like I always tell people, like everyone is a pro in their backyard. Like everyone is really good when it's just them and their Crocs and fucking hanging out. But dude, when you are in a group of 4 or 5 dudes and everyone's just talking shit the whole time and everyone's watching you, waiting for you to fuck up, dude, it's different. Like pressure's on, people are watching, and it's fun. Don't get me wrong, but there's no way for you to train for it, and like,
Yeah.
it's a different environment. And I'm a firm believer too. Like, am I ever going to take a 95-yard shot on a 1/3 scale bear? No, that'll never happen. But
You never know.
when you shoot tack and you come back home and it's hunting season, man, 20 yards is really close.
Oh yeah.
After you practice at those ranges. So
Well, we're spoiled here because I have a 30 course or 30 target course 15 minutes from my house. Like I just shot it 2 weeks ago. And it's what we did then. Like, all right, let me backtrack. So I've had this course around me for 4 or 5 years. I used to just go and shoot every single every single target right where the post is at. So I'm taking the easiest shots. Some of them are far. There was an elk they had that you can shoot 120 if you want. But it is originally a 70-yard shot. I've gotten to the point now, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm tooting my own horn. It's just you're right. The different types of shots will show you what you can and can't do. Right. Me and my buddy Josh, dude, we were shooting between trees. We were backing up 40 yards and setting the pin in between two little saplings and like thinking just if I hit it, I hit it, but whatever. And you send it. And I feel like tack is a good way to sort of get to that point.
It opens a new realm of archery for most
It does.
Yeah.
It's shots that you're never just going to get. Now, I will tell you, tack has not helped me with shooting a turkey target over there in the head at 30 yards. I've been trying that for 4 years, and I lose an arrow every single time. So they need to do something for that. But so I wanna change it up a little bit before we wrap up here. There is something big that we have not talked about, and the three of us are involved in it. I want to talk about boning.
Yes.
So you guys partnered up like in a huge way with boning recently. That's all I've seen for the past 2 months now since ATA, I think.
Yeah.
So how does that feel? Like, especially like how long you been building arrows, man?
Probably like 8 years now.
8 years. Like how does that feel for you? And then Mike, I want to know how it feels for you doing this for a year and like being able to secure something like that where I mean, let's be honest, Bohning's the oldest vein company in the industry, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I've been building arrows for a long time. Not as the BowTique. But yeah, I mean, it's me and Pope have it's weird because I would say, Pope, when did we start? Like, I'd say what, 3-4 years, maybe 5 years ago. Like, we were both building for a specific company. We were moving a lot of arrows, and like there's some ways you could look at things as like this is a competition, because I mean, like at the end of the day there is money tied to it. It's like who can build the most is going to have the most money, whatever the case. But like it's funny because like now, like I would argue that the some of the biggest name arrow builders in the industry right now, we're all in a group chat, and it's very active, and like it's just a bunch of dudes and we're all buddies and friends. But to answer your question, it's wild. Like working with Bohning is wild. I talked to Brad. He's the national sales director over at Bohning. I talked to him at ATA. We already had like this little conglomerate formed, what we were trying to work towards. And I was at ATA. I walked up to Brad. I told him, I was like, man, we build an insane amount of arrows collectively. We want to work something out. And I mean, the conversation was like a 10-minute conversation, ended with a handshake and a high five. And again, like, dude, Bohning's, I've built a lot of Bohnings prior, you know what I mean? It's like they make phenomenal products. And none of us would have teamed up with them if it sucked, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
So to be associated with one of the biggest house names in the archery industry is, dude, it's exciting. It's humbling. Man, we're lucky. Like, dude, it's awesome. It feels like all the work that me and Pope have done over all these years of building arrows, like mountains of arrows, has finally paid off.
And two, it took both of us. Individually, I think that we would have done great, but I think that me and Stoney collaborating and cooperating on some things really, really opened a lot of doors for us, but it took the right people too. But as far as being associated with Bohning, it's a humbling experience too, because it shows that other people find value in your work, and they really kind of believe in what you're doing, especially a company of that caliber. And let's face it, they build a phenomenal product, and they're not going to be associated with somebody who isn't building phenomenal products. So it's a big sign off. They've been more than accepting of us, and really, supportive of us. And I think that it's going to turn out to be a super great thing. I expect in the future even more to come of it, and I think it'll help all of us to continue to grow.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of arrows I've seen you guys putting out, with those veins now, it's working clearly, right?
Yeah.
Like, I remember the first couple posts. I think it had to have been on yours, Mike, where you were posting stuff with the X vein, and you and I were talking about, a build and all that. I was like, oh, I want to run the X vein. You're like, nah, dude, alpha, run the alpha. And I'm like, what's the alpha? And then it drops, a couple days after that, I think. And I was like, oh, okay. And then you got me in contact with Brad, which was probably one of the most nerve-wracking calls I've ever had. Because I'm like, all right, I'm this little podcaster from Georgia that's talking to, what was he, the national sales director?
National sales and marketing director.
Yeah.
This is official title.
Of Bohning. And I'm like, and I was just honest with him. I was like, dude, I want to work with you guys. So whatever that means, and it worked out, and I've got you to thank for it, man. Because I mean, I remember, so I know y'all been building arrows for years and all that stuff. And I want to know if you've ever done this, because I started building my own stuff, just playing around. I don't know if y'all have ever gotten the death stare from your wives, but the amount of times that we were watching our show and I'm standing there with no fletching jig, a pipe cutter, and super glue. And I've got some veins, probably Bohning, that I had ordered. And I'm standing there with the super glue, just putting it on the valley in the vein and just hand sticking it on there, making sure that they're all at the right degrees. I mean, did you guys ever do that? Have y'all ever hand fletched arrows?
No.
Okay, well,
Well, I come from a construction manufacturing background, so I've dealt with jigs for since I was 18 years old. So it was kind of like a okay, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
understand it. I get where you're coming from, dude. Because a lot of people look at it, especially when you're talking about custom arrows, and they're like, "Well, I'll just do it myself." And then they start looking at the price, and
So difficult.
once you're all in it, it's really you might as well buy them from somebody.
Yeah.
But you know.
Well, and the thing is, like, I was running heavy helical, like probably more than the easy fletch does. And I'd still have some arrows. I'll send you guys pictures of them of the hand fletching jobs. The amount of times I took it off and had to replace it, thought I did it right. If I did 4 fletch, somehow that was easier. But if I tried 3 fletch, it's like it was just weird. It was terrible. I'm sure I still have some from that. And it's but I feel like that's kind of like where it started, because now seeing what you guys do is like, oh, I was really just kicking myself in the ass. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well,
there's
dude,
so many.
it's not even just like buying the equipment. Like, unfortunately, some of the best equipment to build arrows on the market right now are unobtainable. Like,
Yeah.
dude, like the O1, me and Pope, I'm pretty sure the first 2 people that ever even owned one. And like, I get asked daily, it's like, hey, will you sell me yours? How much? Like, dude, it's like sometimes it's crazy
For
offers.
arrow building?
Just the
Yeah, the OMP Phoenix jig. Like, if
Oh,
you've ever
dude,
tried to
I've been
get
hearing about
anything
that.
October Mountain, like,
this thing
bro,
there, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
you
yeah,
better
yeah, yeah.
pray to somebody.
So what's the deal with that? Can people just not get them, or they're just selling out too quick?
dude, they're both. Like, so from what I understand, the only places that are actually receiving them are the shops that placed orders at ATA last year, not 2025, 2024.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I got mine from my home shop. And dude, I've held on to it. Like, I lock my doors at night now because I got this thing in this house. So but it's pretty wild, dude. Like, so that, I mean, that's hard. Now, mind you, there's a million bits and burgers out there. They do a good job. I think the OMP's better. I will say too, like, man, the Atlas and the Alpha Veins, they make building arrows really easy too. I will say that, like, because dude, the cut on them is so unique, and different than what a lot of other manufacturers are putting out. Like, normally they'll find one thing that works good and then they kind of just stop. Whereas like Bohning's always just like their wheels are always turning. And I think that with the Atlas and Alpha, dude, like, it was a slam dunk.
So, in my opinion, Bohning, and you can see them here, but what kind of happened with the Atlas and the Alpha was, and I don't know the backstory, but I would really bet a lot of money that they were looking to produce something more modern and more effective. Because this vein, it really looks so modern compared to everything else on the market. And the other thing you get into is, and the company that I used to deal with, you weren't supposed to have to prime them. Well, what happened is their water jet would end up cycling, like something would get crossed, it would end up cycling uh and non-stick back into the vein, spray them back on it. So if you didn't prime them, you'd have arrows falling apart. Boning does not have that issue. It is truly a non-primed vein. So these are things like when people are looking at building their own arrows, that's one less thing you got to buy, one less thing you got to worry about. Because me and Stoney will both tell you adhesion is finicky. When you start dealing with adhesives, like I feel like a lot of the newer builders and even the at-home guys really benefited from a lot of the things that me and Stony pulled our hair out about for years because like even wraps, there were things we went through with wraps, things we went through with glues, and now there's certain products that you can get your hand on and it's lick and stick and it's stuck, but it was not always that way.
Hmm. I've had many veins fall off because of non-stick
Yeah.
stuff that was on there I didn't even know about.
Well, and it's always the stuff too that claims, like, a lot of products will claim to be a lick and stick or a no prime or whatever. And like what happens is like you're like, and it doesn't matter what the glue is. It doesn't matter if it's Walmart super glue. It doesn't matter if it's Mold Z, Boning, whatever. simple fact is like you'll get great adhesion for like 24 hours, and then like there's something to do with like on a molecular compound where like me and Pope, like I can't really speak for him, but like I'll build arrows, I'll let them sit in my house. The next day I flex test all the veins, make sure they're good before I even put them in a tube and send them out the door. So
Nah,
like,
dude, I just pray.
yeah, so a lot of times like there would be certain things, and this is, during the period of time of learning where it's like, well, this would adhere really good for 24 hours, but then like by the time it went in the tube, went across the nation, got to the guy's house, he put them in the bow, like, dude, adhesive breakdown. And then like you have, like, if I were to send arrows to Hawaii, and I'm, in say December, it's freezing cold here. In Hawaii, it's like 100 degrees with 100% humidity. So like, the drastic shock change in adhesive over such a short amount of time can affect things too. So like, it's a lot of it's trial by fire. A lot of it's you learn what does, what doesn't work. Once you find what works, you don't change it. And so it was a big step. It was a big step. When I can't speak for him, but when I first got the Atlas and Alpha, I was still priming it because it's just, you're like, well,
What if it don't?
what if it
Yeah.
does? What if it's not? Because we've been told this story before that it's a lick stick. So Brad was like, dude, just trust me. Trust me, just do it. You know what I mean? And sure enough, dude, I swear, like, I, you know, again, with archers and their confidence in shooting, dude, like for us arrow builders, man, it's like I have to be confident in my ability that it's going to be stuck on there forever, because that reflects on my work, if that makes sense. Like if you
Yeah.
So
get arrows out and all the veins are not on when they get there, then what does that say about you?
so even when Stoney was coming up, when he was starting this rap business, and taking what he had gathered over the years and then two, bouncing stuff off of me, there were certain things in the raps even that we were looking for that, we knew would cause great adhesion. And sometimes you have to grow into these things because you don't have access to them immediately. But ultimately, Stoney knew what direction he was trying to get to, and we knew what the adhesion formula was. But you still play with things like, well, what if it's this? What if it's that? And there's a lot of chemistry involved in it that you really can't explain, but it doesn't work. So
Yeah.
there's times where Stoney would send me something, and I'd be like, "Nah, bro, that ain't gonna do it." But they would hold for him, and you're like, "I don't
Hmm.
know, bro." It's like different humidities and different houses. So finding that sweet spot between everything, like I'm not saying that it has anything to do with us, but I know from the time that me and Stoney started building and communicating with some of these people that there is now several products on the market that you do not have issues out of.
Yeah, yeah. And too, I mean, like we get hit up frequently about like, will you test this? Will you see what this is like? Because man, like, you know, I think, and even still with my business, like I'm ever evolving. Like Pope confess this. Like I mean, I just recently switched my material, like, and now it's not that anything was wrong or bad with my old stuff. It's just I found something that I think is just a little bit better.
Mhm.
And to me, I mean, dude, like it doesn't leave residue. It bites super hard. It lays truly flat. It rolls flat. It pushes air out. Like, it's very forgiving. You can roll it on a countertop. Like you don't even need to use a soft surface. Like it's that forgiving. And
Huh.
so you have to make products as idiot proof as possible. And I think
Yeah.
that like that is the biggest thing on a business standpoint, is like you have to make this like we even have cards now. It's like it fully it chances are if you're buying arrow wraps, you know what you're doing. But like even if not, I mean, like we put instructions on, hey, clean your arrow with acetone. Don't run it under water. Don't use Dawn dish soap. That's not cleaning your arrow. Like you have to
Well,
spell it out for a lot of people. But
Dude, I could
so
have used that so much like 3 years ago.
yeah,
The amount of money I probably spent $3,000 in 2 years just on arrow components themselves, just
yeah.
learning how to do that.
And
And
two, what you look at like these businesses like Bohning, like the BowTique, like Lone Wolf, like Tethered, these the I know it seems annoying to the consumer. It's like, man, I just bought this, but now this is out. And a lot of people relate it to a money grab, but you would rather be dealing with a company that is pushing for change than somebody that stays stagnant. And I think that's what's so commendable about Stony and Boning is they really pushed for a change when they released these veins and when Stony changed his material, looking for the next thing.
Yeah.
So and the companies that won't, I mean, it'll show over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing. It's funny you even bring that up because like me and Dylan from Typical Sportsman talked about this a few months ago, and he used to be with Bear, now he's with Prime. I was shooting a Bear, now I'm getting a Prime, and it kind of opened the door to me that I didn't know something that's so important, but innovation, right? Like changing things and upgrading, your material, doing stuff that's going to make things better for the consumer, better for y'all. I mean, that's a big thing. And I feel like if people are kind of just, you're always going to have people that are just somewhat stagnant and whatever works for them, right? But finding something that may be a little bit better and switching to it, I feel like there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and like I said, dude, it's like there was nothing wrong with my older stuff. It's just I found a material that's more forgiving. And like if people knew how much more this was and me not changing my price, I mean, I just want like, our slogan has always been like, I make arrow wraps for arrow builders. Like, I'm not trying to mass produce. I'm not trying to make $1 billion. And would it be nice? Yeah, but man, like I want people to come back. I want people to peel that wrap and like, oh my God, this is it. This is the best stuff I've ever used. They roll it and they're like, yep, this is it. And because that's going to be the guy that comes back. And I think that if you're like you said, if you're not changing, if you're not involving, or you're like, even still, I mean, there's going to be a point in time where I go on the search again. Like, is there anything better than this?
Look, dude, look, he says he doesn't want $1 billion, but look at that beard lineup. That's $1 billion beard.
Right? Dude, I'm telling you, I've been distracted this whole episode. I'm sitting here like, how can I is it Dr. Squatch? Something like that. But yeah, man, this episode has been really, really good. Like it's been eye-opening for me, because to the average guy, it's you go on the BowTique or you go and you reach out to Arrows Anonymous and stuff, and you're like, hey, I want this build. They don't understand what goes into it, and they don't understand the quality. So I'm glad that we were able to sort of, in this episode, I'm sure we probably just scratched the surface, right? But I wanted to get, I guess, the behind the scenes look of things and hear like, what got you guys to do this? Why you're using what you're using? The whole boning thing.
Well, even on that point that you just mentioned, and I'd like to accentuate this. If you really love hunting and you want to optimize your ability in the woods, as enticing as it is to do everything yourself, build everything yourself, that's time that you're spending that you could be honing your skills. So it's never a bad thing to source those things out to people who have perfected that to where you can take all of your time and dump it into what you love doing.
Yeah. It's like yeah, dude, if I wanted to redo the plumbing in my house, I'm not going to watch a YouTube video. I'm just going to hire a plumber.
Yeah. I'm going to be like Tim off Home Improvement and try to do it yourself and ruin everything.
Yeah, dude, I mean, we definitely just scratched the surface. I know that like, we get all this analytical, like kind of information from boning, like, because it's more than just like looks. I mean, the looks are killer from my standpoint, from the wraps and like from, promotion standpoint. But like, man, like I said, if they didn't like, if the performance wasn't at the same tier, then it's not worth doing. And like, same thing with my wraps. Like, yeah, they can be the prettiest things on the market, but if veins don't stick to them or, they peel, then what's the point? Like, so it's the simple fact is that performance has to meet the aesthetics of it. And, I think that moving forward, we're going to start seeing a lot more from boning, as far as like,
updated colors.
Yeah, new colors, updated, like actual, like in the field, like testing, people showcase, like, dude, like me in my backyard, I sent it to Pope, like set on my phone, like it's shocking how quiet these veins are, like insanely quiet. And so to, when they have access to like, wind tunnels and, aerodynamic tests, through data and stuff like that, seeing that stuff, like, we plan on having on TikTok, like, having some of the engineers from Bohning come on, doing a full blown Q&A, not just me, just like everyone in the comments asking questions real time. What makes yours better than ours, or others, or whatever the case may be. People have that opportunity and they're willing to do it. They stand by the product, and I think that's the biggest commendable thing about Bohning is they stick by what they have.
And two, you have some new vein producers on the scene that have engineering backgrounds, but there is something to be said about a company that's been around as long as Bohning to pull a vein out like this. Like when you're looking at this vein, you're talking about the torque apex being in the middle, which is giving you better control, less flutter. The amount of thought that went into this vein, and two, like, it's unfortunate, but some of these startups, they just don't have access to the type of machinery, the ability to test the same way that Bohning does. So when you're buying a product from them, it really is a product that has been put through the ringer compared to somebody where you might see, oh, well, they tested it. Well, they put a diagram up of this. Well, it's not that hard to make one on a computer, but these veins have really been through the ringer.
And
so I'm sending this episode to Brad. He's gonna.
Yeah. So like, and this is gonna be I think you should have Brad on, and like
I told him he could.
I think you should have Brad on, and and this is a funny story. I just found this out, but dude, the Atlas and Alpha, the initial design, started on a napkin, and so like I think that it's a modern look, dude. I mean, it's not parabolic, it's not a shield cut. I mean, it's something in between, and dude, like it was literally slam dunk. They've shared some of the analytical stuff like with us. Like I know the big thing was like when they like when you test through a chronograph, the veins weight contributes to the initial speed. However, like when they told me that like when they were testing chrono speeds at distance, even though these are a little bit heavier than others, they were producing faster speeds at longer ranges due to the
less flutter.
There was less flutter. There was less suspension of air. They're quieter. They're moving faster at distance.
Less parachuting.
There's less parachuting. They're correcting broadheads faster, and I will take that all day for a grain or two. So
that's wild, dude. Yeah, I am for sure gonna. If Brad calls me tomorrow, I'm like, bro, I don't know if you listen to podcasts, but on your way to work on Tuesday, just skip all the way to like 1 hour and 30 and just sit there and listen to it. Dude, that's awesome. I'm hyped. I can't wait to get mine, and hopefully I can send off some arrows to you and get a build done. But I'm still waiting to hear back on all that. But yeah, man, look, I appreciate you guys coming on. I want to do this again sometime in the summer, so we can kind of go a little bit more under the iceberg of what you guys do and really the industry of it. Because again, at the surface, people see pretty arrows and they don't understand what goes into that. So I want to talk about like what type of componentry you like to use, Pope, Mike, with how you get your designs and which obviously I don't want to let the cat out of the bag on that one, so people don't take it. But
they can't take his brain, so he'll be okay.
That's true. That's true. But there's so much more.
That's generational trauma, brother.
It's generational drug use, dude.
There you go. Oh man. Well, look, guys, I really appreciate y'all coming on. Give me some shameless plugs before we sign off here.
Man, like I would say a lot of our fellow arrow builders, Unchained Bowhunter, Ruthless Archery, Trent with Chest Thumper, Pope naturally, Bohning, Mold Z, Coulter at Mold Z is an angel, Squatch bowstrings.
Ban on bowstrings.
We'll leave it at that. But yeah, I know at the beginning, of course, there's a promo code or a discount code for the website. So go check it out. It's the BowTiqueLLC.com. We have, dude, a million designs. To the best of my knowledge, we're the only arrow wrap company on the market that has glow in the dark arrow wraps.
And a Dale Earnhardt wrap too. Don't leave that one out.
Cigarette wraps. We got cigarette wraps. We got comic pops. Dude, I mean, we got literally. If you can't find what you want on my website, then I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
He can make it.
You can. I still have. And you know what? Hold on a sec. We're taking a blast to the past, man. I want to see if you remember this. This was last summer. You made this wrap. And I still, with the podcast logo, it's just I think it's the white topo wrap. But when I saw that, dude, you don't know what you did for me. Oh, yeah. It was so sick, man. So yeah, you really can make anything. I know you made some Scoutek wraps too. I mean, you really do cover pretty much, and you made me some Dragon Ball wraps, which they're upstairs. But I'm a Dragon Ball Z nerd, so when I saw those too, the bad thing is I'm not even planning on using them. I'm keeping them just as like a memorial kind of thing. But yeah, dude, the quality is second to none when it comes to that for sure.
I appreciate it, man. I know I just did some Venom wraps the other day. Those were pretty sweet. I can't.
Yeah, dude, I saw that on Facebook. Yeah. I tried to share it as much as I could.
Yeah, dude. It's fun. I just don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to do customs. Unfortunately, like it's just getting to be a lot. I can do it. I can do it for dealers, but like dude, my email invoice or not invoice, but the inbox is just like flooded. Just inquiries about custom work. I just can't in good faith do them all. So I might just shut it off for only dealers and call it a day.
And buddies.
Yeah.
And buddies.
Yeah.
Well, and what may end up happening is that, that's a serious artwork charge.
Yeah. Very serious.
Because Stoney's artistry is growing at the same time. Like there's been 4 or 5 raps that he's produced lately that I was like, yeah, he's fucking growing into his own. Like he's kind of nailing it.
Did you see those new blue ones?
Which ones?
I forget. What was the new blue? You texted me a picture of it and I was like, what veins?
Talking about my raps with the booty cheeks on them?
No. I don't know.
Those are different ones.
I was gonna say I don't think that's what he sent me.
Oh yeah.
It was like the blue and the gold.
Yes.
Yeah, dude. I'm telling you, stuff like that. See, that's the thing is like it stands out, because I don't really see. I mean, it's funny because you and I have talked about like different custom, I guess, arrow building social medias or arrow wraps or whatever, and it's like none of them really, in my opinion, hold a candle to what you guys do.
I did one. The official ones are white, but dude, I did these for Pope's buddy, but it was like a Poseidon trad wrap.
Yeah, it's killer. And 2, something that Stoney understands that other wrap makers may not understand is how it's going to look on arrow. It can look totally different on arrow, and he usually nails it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and the ones you did for Ben with Sodak. I mean, those were sick.
Those were super sick.
I saw him post a photo when he built them, and I was just like, dude. So I have some ideas. I have some ideas for the build. I might want to change a couple of things if we can, but
yeah.
Cool, man. Well, Pope, where can everybody find you, man? If somebody wants to get some arrows, how do they get a hold of you?
Just DM me. I don't have a website, so @arrows_anonymous on Instagram, or just find me on Facebook. I kind of limit everything so that I don't get overwhelmed. So if I don't message you back immediately, I'm coming. But I filter everything so that I can find my way through it and get to everybody. And so if I open a website, I might have to quit my job and just shit'll go crazy.
Well, I mean, it doesn't sound like it'd be that bad.
Well, then I'd have to work every day. I get 4 weeks of vacation at home.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Don't listen to me. Cool, man. Well, like I said, I really appreciate you guys coming on, and I had fun. This was a fun episode. So summertime, we'll do another one. We'll go deeper into it.
We might do a live at TAC is what might happen.
Dude, if I can make it, I'm going to do my best. The problem is I have my daughter's softball game that Saturday morning. And so my plan is to try to go to that, leave that afternoon, find some, hotel that me and my buddy can stay in, and then go shoot probably early that morning.
Well, let me explain this. Yeah, dude, like we don't even have tents or cots. Like I'm pretty sure like we're gonna end up sleeping on the dirt.
Hey, you can sleep in your car.
Like
Yeah.
we were just like, yeah, we're gonna go. We'll figure it out when we're there, dude.
Right?
We're just gonna start knocking on RV doors.
Find a Hotel 6 that smells like cat pee.
Dude, I'll give you a dozen arrows and a set of rats. You let me stay here.
There you go. Out there bartering for a place to
Someone will say yes. Someone will say yeah for sure.
That's so funny. All right, guys. Well, I really appreciate it. And we'll set up another day to do this.